Turns out discovering your husband's been playing Santa Claus with your great-grandmother's jewelry collection isn't quite the Christmas miracle you'd expect. But hey, at least I found out before he gift-wrapped my entire inheritance and left it under some other woman's tree. My name is Celeste Barrett, and 3 days ago, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday in March, I learned that my husband Corbin had been running his own little Robin Hood operation. Except instead of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, he was stealing from his wife and giving to his 28-year-old side piece who apparently thought inherited antiques was just another way of saying Tuesday gifts. The revelation hit me like a Target shopping cart in a Costco parking lot when my sister-in-law Astrid sent me a screenshot that made my blood pressure spike higher than gas prices in California. There was Mireille, Corbin's executive assistant, who couldn't execute a proper coffee order if her life depended on it, wearing my great-grandmother's pearl necklace at what looked like some upscale Scottsdale restaurant. "Girl, isn't this your necklace?" Astrid had texted, followed by 3 fire emojis and a skull. Because apparently, even my in-laws had more awareness than my own husband about what belonged to me. I stared at that photo for a solid 10 minutes, zooming in until the pixels looked like abstract art. But there was no mistaking it. Those pearls had been in my family for 4 generations. My great-grandmother had worn them on her wedding day in 1923. My grandmother had worn them to my grandfather's funeral. My mother had worn them to my college graduation. And now they were accessorizing a woman who probably thought family heirloom was a type of smoothie bowl. The best part? Corbin had told me just last month that all my inherited jewelry was safely stored in our safety deposit box, while I was stressing about our mortgage payment. Apparently, safety deposit box was his cute little nickname for his mistress's jewelry collection. I'm 34 years old. I've been married to this man for 12 years, and I work 60-hour weeks as a registered nurse at Phoenix General Hospital. I've been paying most of our bills while he's been building his consulting business, which, as it turns out, was primarily consulting on how to redistribute my assets to his girlfriend. The really beautiful irony? I've been wearing costume jewelry from Target for the past 2 years because Corbin convinced me we needed to be financially responsible and that my real jewelry was too valuable to wear casually. Meanwhile, Mireille has been walking around Scottsdale looking like she raided Tiffany's clearance section. But here's where it gets really rich. And by rich, I mean absolutely infuriating. I did some digging through our credit card statements, just for fun. Turns out Mr. We Need to Budget Better had been charging romantic dinners, weekend getaways, and jewelry shopping trips on our joint American Express, the same card I'd been using to buy groceries and pay our utilities. 3 years. 3 whole years of this nonsense. And I'm just finding out now because his little princess decided to go public with her stolen goods on social media. The audacity of posting my family heirlooms on Instagram with the caption, "Feeling blessed and grateful for the beautiful people in my life," accompanied by a heart eyes emoji and a prayer hands emoji. Blessed? With my jewelry? The only thing she should be feeling blessed about is that I found out through a screenshot instead of seeing her wearing them in person, because that would have been a whole different kind of Tuesday. The kicker? According to her Instagram stories, tomorrow, Friday, March 15th, is her 30th birthday party. And based on the location tags and the guest list visible in her posts, it's going to be quite the celebration at some fancy venue in Paradise Valley. She's been posting countdown stories all week, showing off her pre-birthday gifts, which, wouldn't you know it, include my great-grandmother's diamond tennis bracelet and the emerald earrings my grandmother left me. I've been sitting here in my Honda Civic in the Starbucks parking lot for the past hour, scrolling through her social media like it's my new favorite reality show. Because apparently, my life has become a reality show I never auditioned for, and the plot twist is that I'm not the main character. I'm the woman whose entire jewelry collection is being used as props. But here's what little Miss Birthday Girl doesn't know. I'm a nurse, which means I'm excellent at handling emergencies, I have incredible attention to detail, and I don't panic under pressure. I'm also the daughter of a family court attorney who taught me that documentation is everything, and that revenge is a dish best served with proper legal paperwork. So while Mireille is planning her big birthday bash, complete with my family heirlooms as accessories, I'm planning something a little different. Because if she wants to celebrate her birthday wearing my jewelry, then I'm going to make sure it's a party she'll never forget. The kind of party that ends with her giving an impromptu performance of "Happy Birthday to Me" in handcuffs. See, what Corbin and his little princess don't understand is that those aren't just pretty necklaces and sparkly earrings. They're documented family heirlooms with insurance appraisals, photographs, and a very clear paper trail proving ownership. And taking someone else's documented property? Well, that's not a relationship problem. That's a felony. Tomorrow is going to be very interesting. Wednesday morning started like any other day in suburban Phoenix, except I woke up with the kind of clarity that usually only comes after 3 cups of coffee and a good night's sleep. Instead, I'd had 0 sleep and maximum caffeine, but sometimes insomnia and rage create their own special kind of focus. I called in sick to work, which technically wasn't a lie since discovering your husband's been playing jewelry redistribution games definitely qualifies as a mental health day. Then I drove straight to my lawyer's office, because when life gives you lemons, you don't make lemonade. You document the theft and press charges. Beverly Sinclair has been our family attorney since I was in high school, and she's seen enough cheating husband drama to fill a Netflix series. When I walked into her office with my folder of evidence, screenshots, credit card statements, and insurance documentation for every piece of jewelry, she didn't even look surprised. "How long?" she asked, adjusting her reading glasses. 3 years that I know of. Probably longer. And he's been using joint assets to fund this relationship? Our American Express looks like he's been personally sponsoring her entire lifestyle. Beverly leaned back in her chair with that expression that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. And it wasn't going to be me. "Celeste, honey, your husband just handed you the best divorce settlement in Arizona family court history. But here's the thing. I didn't want to wait for divorce court. I wanted my jewelry back now, before Murray decided to pawn it, or, God forbid, lose it during one of her weekend getaways to Sedona. Can we get it back immediately?" I asked. "Well," Beverly said, pulling out her phone, "I have a friend in the sheriff's department who specializes in property recovery. If you can prove ownership and location." 2 hours later, I was sitting in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office with Deputy Martinez, a woman who looked like she'd rather be dealing with actual criminals than cheating husband drama, but was professional enough to hide her amusement. "So let me get this straight," Deputy Martinez said, reviewing my paperwork. "Your husband gave your inherited jewelry to his girlfriend, and she's been flaunting it on social media. Not just flaunting, she's wearing my great-grandmother's necklace like it's her personal Christmas bonus. And you have documentation proving ownership?" I spread out the insurance appraisals, family photos, and even my great-grandmother's original jewelry box with the family tree engraved inside. 4 generations of documentation. Deputy Martinez actually smiled. "Ma'am, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've never seen a clearer case of theft recovery. When's this party?" "Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the Phoenician Resort." Well then, tomorrow night just became very interesting for everyone involved. That evening, I decided to do some reconnaissance. Not stalking, reconnaissance. There's a difference. Stalking implies emotional investment. This was purely strategic intelligence gathering. I drove by Murray's apartment complex in North Scottsdale, one of those places where young professionals live when they want to feel fancy, but can't quite afford actual fancy. The kind of place with a luxury pool that's really just a regular pool with expensive lounge chairs. Her Instagram stories were still rolling, showing her pre-birthday preparation, which included a mani-pedi appointment, a blow-dry at some upscale salon, and, this was the part that made my eye twitch, a photo of her jewelry layout for tomorrow night. My jewelry layout. She'd arranged everything on her white comforter like some twisted version of a magazine spread. My great-grandmother's pearl necklace, the diamond tennis bracelet, the emerald earrings, and, this was new, my mother's sapphire ring, the one I'd been looking for since Christmas. The caption read, "Choosing tomorrow's sparkle is harder than choosing tomorrow's outfit. Blessed Rusher birthday girl. Grateful. Sparkle. Grateful." She was grateful for stealing my family heirlooms. I screenshot everything, because documentation is key, and sent it to Beverly. Her response was immediate. "Holy theft, Batman. See you tomorrow night." The really infuriating part was reading through the comments. Her friends were all gushing about how lucky she was and how generous her boyfriend was. One comment particularly stuck out. "Girl, you found yourself a real man who knows how to treat a queen. A real man who steals from his wife to impress his girlfriend." I spent Thursday morning at work trying to focus on actual emergencies while mentally rehearsing tomorrow's events. It's remarkable how much clarity you can achieve when your anger reaches a certain temperature. Like how water becomes steam. There's a specific point where fury transforms into pure, focused energy. During my lunch break, I called Corbin just to check his story one more time. "Hey, babe," he answered, and I could hear traffic in the background. Probably driving to another client meeting that would mysteriously last until evening. "Quick question," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Are my grandmother's pearls still in the safety deposit box?" Brief pause. "Of course. Why?" "Just wondering. I was thinking about wearing them to my cousin's wedding next month." "Oh, well, maybe we should leave them there for now. You know, keep them safe." Safe. From me. In a safety deposit box that apparently had an Instagram account and a birthday party tomorrow. "You're probably right," I agreed. "Wouldn't want anything to happen to them." "Exactly. Love you, gotta run." "Love you too, you lying, jewelry redistributing disaster of a human being." The rest of Thursday passed in a blur of work and planning. Beverly confirmed that Deputy Martinez would meet us at the Phoenician tomorrow evening with the recovery order. All I had to do was identify my property and provide verification of ownership. Friday morning, I did something I hadn't done in months. I took time getting ready for something that wasn't work. I chose my outfit carefully. Black dress, professional but not trying too hard. The kind of look that says, "I'm here on business, and that business is reclaiming what's mine." The irony wasn't lost on me that I was getting dressed up to retrieve the jewelry I should have been wearing in the first place. Friday afternoon brought a revelation that made everything else look like amateur hour. While I was preparing for the evening's festivities, my phone buzzed with a text from my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. You know, the type of retired woman who knows everyone's business because she considers neighborhood watch a full-time occupation. "Celeste, dear, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I saw Corbin loading boxes into his truck this morning. Big boxes. Hope everything's all right." Everything was definitely not all right, but it was about to get a whole lot more interesting. I drove home during my lunch break and found our house looking suspiciously empty. Not completely empty, but strategically empty. Like someone had been playing a very specific game of what can I take without her noticing immediately. The first thing I checked was our bedroom closet. Corbin's side was about 60% depleted. Not gone, just thinned out. Like he was gradually relocating rather than completely abandoning ship. His good suits were missing, along with his favorite shoes and that cologne I bought him for our anniversary. But here's where it got really interesting. I checked our joint bank accounts. Because yes, I'm that wife who monitors our finances like a hawk, and discovered some fascinating activity from the past week. 3 large cash withdrawals, totaling almost $8,000. Cash that came out right after my last paycheck was deposited. I called Beverly immediately. "He's liquidating," she said after I explained. "Classic pattern. He's been planning this for weeks, maybe months. The timing with the birthday party isn't coincidental." "What do you mean?" "Think about it, Celeste. He's not just stealing your jewelry for gifts. He's preparing to leave, and he's using your assets to fund his new life. The party tonight? That's probably their coming out event. Their "we're official now" announcement to their social circle. The pieces clicked together like a puzzle made of betrayal and stupidity. The gradual disappearance of his belongings, the increased secrecy about his schedule, the recent changes in our joint accounts. Corbin wasn't just having an affair, he was staging a complete life transition, and he was financing it with my money and my jewelry. But wait, it gets better. I decided to check something else. Our home insurance policy. Because if he's been taking my documented jewelry, there should be some record, or at least some concern about coverage, right? I logged into our policy online and found something that made my jaw drop. Corbin had filed an amendment to our homeowner's insurance 3 months ago, removing my jewelry collection from our coverage. The reason listed? Items no longer in residence due to family trust relocation. Family trust relocation. He'd told the insurance company that my jewelry had been moved to a family trust for estate planning purposes. In reality, he'd moved it to his girlfriend's jewelry box for affair enhancement purposes. This man had been planning this heist for months. I called Beverly back immediately. Beverly, he removed my jewelry from our homeowner's insurance 3 months ago. Told them it was moved to a family trust. Silence. Then, Celeste, that's fraud. Insurance fraud. He's been planning this systematically, and he's created a paper trail that proves premeditation. What does that mean for tonight? It means we're not just recovering stolen property anymore. We're documenting an ongoing criminal enterprise. I'm calling Detective Rodriguez at Financial Crimes. This is bigger than just relationship drama now. While Beverly handled the legal escalation, I decided to do some more reconnaissance. Because if Corbin was planning some grand reveal tonight, I wanted to know exactly what I was walking into. I drove by the Phoenician Resort around 4 p.m., just to get a lay of the land. The venue was beautiful. One of those places that costs more for one night than most people spend on rent. Which raised an interesting question. Who was paying for this party? I parked in the visitor lot and walked through the lobby like I belonged there. Which, technically, I did, since my jewelry would be making an appearance. The event was being held in the Paradise Ballroom, and based on the activity I could see through the glass doors, it was going to be quite the celebration. Here's what I observed. A DJ setting up equipment, catering staff arranging what looked like a 4-course dinner setup, floral arrangements that probably cost more than my car payment, and a photographer doing lighting tests. This wasn't a casual birthday party. This was a production. I walked back to my car and did some quick math. Venue rental at the Phoenician for a private event. Minimum $5,000. Catering for what looked like 50 people. Another $3,000. DJ, flowers, photographer. Easily another $2,000. We were looking at a minimum $10,000 party. Corbin makes about $60,000 a year from his consulting business when he's actually working. I make $75,000 as a nurse. There was no way he was funding this party with legitimate income, which meant I checked our credit card statements again, going back 3 months this time. And there it was, a pattern of charges that told the whole story. Party planning services, venue deposits, catering consultations, even charges for event coordination services. All of it charged to our joint credit card. All of it happening while he was telling me we needed to tighten our budget. Corbin hadn't just stolen my jewelry. He'd stolen my money to throw his girlfriend a party where she could show off my jewelry to their friends. He was literally making me pay for my own humiliation. But you know what? When someone hands you that much ammunition, it's almost rude not to use it. I called Deputy Martinez to update her on the evening's plan. Deputy, this isn't just about recovering my jewelry anymore. I think we're looking at fraud, identity theft, and possibly embezzlement. Ma'am, how sure are you about these financial irregularities? I have 3 months of credit card statements showing he used our joint account to fund tonight's party, plus insurance fraud documentation, plus evidence of systematic asset liquidation. In that case, I'm bringing backup. And Detective Rodriguez from Financial Crimes wants to observe tonight's operation. This sounds like it might be a bigger case than we initially thought. Perfect. Because if Mireille wanted a memorable 30th birthday party, she was about to get one that would be truly unforgettable. I spent the rest of the afternoon preparing like I was going to war. Which, in a way, I was. I gathered every piece of documentation I had. Insurance appraisals, family photographs showing the jewelry, bank statements, credit card records, even old emails where Corbin had discussed my jewelry collection. By 6 p.m., I was ready. Not just ready to get my jewelry back, ready to dismantle the entire elaborate lie my husband had been living for the past 3 years. The best part? They had no idea I was coming. At exactly 7:30 p.m. on Friday, March 15th, I walked into the Phoenician Resort wearing my best black dress and the kind of confidence that comes from having both the law and the moral high ground on your side. Deputy Martinez and Detective Rodriguez were already in position, having arrived separately to avoid causing premature alarm. The Paradise Ballroom was even more spectacular than I'd glimpsed earlier. Mireille had gone full princess fantasy. White and gold decorations, cascading flowers, string lights creating a romantic ambiance, and a live jazz trio playing in the corner. It was beautiful, elegant, and completely funded by my money. But the real showstopper was the birthday girl herself. There was Mireille, holding court at the center of the room, wearing a stunning white cocktail dress and absolutely dripping in my family jewelry. My great-grandmother's pearl necklace, the diamond tennis bracelet, the emerald earrings, and my mother's sapphire ring. She looked like she'd robbed a museum and decided to wear the evidence. Corbin was standing next to her, arm around her waist, playing the role of devoted boyfriend with an Oscar-worthy performance. He was wearing his good suit, one of the ones that had disappeared from our closet, and looking more relaxed and happy than I'd seen him in years. I watched from the entrance as Mireille opened birthday gifts, each one greeted with squeals of delight and dramatic gasps. Her friends were all taking photos, documenting every moment of her special day. The irony was delicious. They were creating evidence of her receiving stolen goods and posting it in real time. I decided to let them enjoy themselves for exactly 10 more minutes. Because the thing about surprise parties is that the surprise should be memorable. At 7:40 p.m., I walked into the ballroom. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Corbin spotted me first, and I watched his face go through the 5 stages of realization: confusion, recognition, panic, calculation, and finally, resignation. It was like watching someone realize they'd been playing poker with their cards face up the entire time. "Celeste?" he said, loud enough that several people turned to look. "Hi, honey," I said, walking toward them with the casual confidence of someone who belonged there. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder." Mireille looked confused, glancing between Corbin and me like she was trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. "Corbin, who is this?" "This," I said, extending my hand to shake hers, "is Celeste, Corbin's wife, and you must be Mireille. I love your jewelry." The silence that followed was the kind you could hear from space. The jazz trio kept playing, but everyone within earshot had stopped talking. Mireille's hand went instinctively to the pearl necklace at her throat. "Wife?" she repeated, looking at Corbin with an expression that suggested this was news to her. 12 years next month, I confirmed cheerfully. "And speaking of anniversaries, that necklace you're wearing, that's been in my family for 4 generations. My great-grandmother wore it on her wedding day in 1923. Mireille's face went through its own interesting transformation. "Corbin told me these were family pieces. His family. Well, he wasn't technically wrong. They are family pieces. My family." That's when Deputy Martinez and Detective Rodriguez chose to make their entrance. 2 uniformed officers walking into a birthday party tends to have a dampening effect on the festivities. "Excuse me," Deputy Martinez announced, approaching our little group. "I'm looking for Mireille Patterson and Corbin Barrett." "That's us," Mireille said, her voice suddenly very small. "Ma'am, we have a court order for the recovery of stolen property. We're going to need you to remove any jewelry that doesn't belong to you and hand it over to the rightful owner." The ballroom had gone completely silent now. Even the jazz trio had stopped playing. 50 party guests were watching this unfold like it was dinner theater. Phones out, recording everything. "Stolen," Mireille said, looking at Corbin with dawning horror. "Corbin, you said these were gifts. You said they were yours to give." "I can explain," Corbin started, but Detective Rodriguez cut him off. "Mr. Barrett, you have the right to remain silent. I'd suggest you exercise that right while we sort this out." What happened next was like watching a building demolition in slow motion. Mireille, realizing she'd been wearing stolen goods at her own birthday party, in front of all her friends, while being recorded, started removing my jewelry with shaking hands. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "I swear I didn't know they were stolen." "Ma'am, ignorance isn't really the issue here," Detective Rodriguez said. "The issue is possession of documented stolen property. And based on the credit card records we've reviewed, there are some additional financial irregularities we need to discuss." That's when Mireille realized the full scope of what was happening. "Wait, what credit card records?" I decided to help her out. "The joint credit card that paid for this party, sweetie. The one that's in my name, too. The one that paid for this venue, the catering, the flowers, even your dress, if I had to guess." Mireille turned to stare at Corbin with the kind of expression usually reserved for discovering someone's been lying about their identity for 3 years. You used her money? You used your wife's money to pay for my birthday party? It's community property, Corbin said weakly. Community property that you stole to fund an affair, Detective Rodriguez clarified, which is embezzlement and fraud and identity theft, depending on how you obtained access to these accounts. The beautiful thing about watching someone's entire constructed reality collapse is that it happens in stages. First, Mireille realized she'd been an unwitting accomplice in jewelry theft. Then she realized she'd been unknowingly flaunting stolen goods on social media. Then she realized the party she thought was proof of her boyfriend's devotion was actually funded by his wife's money. Finally, she realized that her devoted boyfriend was married and had been lying to her for 3 years. 3 years? She whispered, looking at me. You've been married for 12 years? Happily married, I said. Well, I thought we were happy. Turns out I was just uninformed. By this point, the party guests were openly staring, phones recording everything. Mireille's friends looked like they were watching their social media queen get dethroned in real time. Deputy Martinez finished collecting my jewelry, every piece accounted for and documented, while Detective Rodriguez explained to Corbin and Mireille that they'd need to come to the station for questioning regarding the financial irregularities. But it's my birthday, Mireille said, which under the circumstances was probably the most tone-deaf thing she could have said. Well, I said, fastening my great-grandmother's necklace around my own neck for the first time in 3 years. At least it's a birthday you'll never forget. As they led Corbin and Mireille out of the ballroom, past 50 stunned party guests and one very expensive birthday cake, I turned to the crowd. Sorry to interrupt the party, everyone, but if anyone's interested, there's an open bar and the catering is already paid for. Seems like a shame to waste it. And that's how Mireille's 30th birthday party became my emancipation celebration. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment in Central Phoenix, wearing my mother's sapphire ring and reflecting on the beautiful chaos that my life has become. It's amazing how much clarity you can achieve when you stop funding someone else's fantasy life and start investing in your own reality. The legal proceedings were swift and satisfying. Corbin pled guilty to embezzlement and fraud, receiving 2 years of probation and a requirement to pay full restitution, which, considering he'd spent over $30,000 of our joint assets on his 3-year affair, was a substantial amount. Mireille, who genuinely hadn't known the jewelry was stolen, avoided criminal charges, but did have to explain to her employer why she'd been arrested at her own birthday party. Apparently, marketing firms don't love that kind of publicity. The divorce was finalized last month, thanks to Corbin's systematic documentation of his own fraud. Seriously, who keeps receipts for embezzlement? I got the house, my jewelry, full restitution, and half of his consulting business, which, as it turns out, was more profitable than he'd led me to believe. Funny how honest financial disclosure can reveal such interesting details. But the real justice came in smaller, more personal ways. Like watching Mireille's Instagram followers drop from 12,000 to about 300 after video of her birthday party arrest went viral. Or seeing Corbin's consulting business lose half its clients when word spread about his creative approach to asset management. Or discovering that several of his colleagues had suspected the affair for months, but nobody had bothered to tell me. The thing about betrayal is that it reveals not just the character of the person who betrayed you, but the entire ecosystem that enabled it. Corbin's affair wasn't just between him and Mireille. It was supported by friends who covered for him, colleagues who looked the other way, and a social circle that celebrated stolen goods without asking questions. I've learned that there's a special kind of satisfaction that comes from watching people face the consequences of their own choices. Not revenge, exactly, but accountability served with a side of poetic justice. Mireille moved back to California last month. Apparently, Scottsdale lost its charm once she realized her entire lifestyle had been subsidized by fraud. Her last Instagram post was a philosophical quote about learning from life's unexpected lessons, accompanied by a sunset photo that looked suspiciously like she was somewhere very far from Arizona. Corbin, meanwhile, is living in a studio apartment near Tempe and working for a firm that specializes in financial recovery consulting, which is corporate speak for helping people clean up their own financial disasters. The irony is almost too perfect to believe. As for me, I'm thriving in ways I didn't expect. Turns out, when you're not subsidizing someone else's secret life, you have a lot more money for your own priorities. I bought a new car. Nothing fancy, just reliable and completely mine. I took that vacation to Italy I'd been postponing for 3 years. I even started dating again, which is interesting when you can honestly say your last relationship ended with your ex-husband being arrested at his girlfriend's birthday party. The dating apps are particularly entertaining now. When men ask about my relationship history, I have the most incredible conversation starter. Well, my last marriage ended when I had to retrieve my stolen jewelry from my husband's girlfriend's birthday party with the help of the sheriff's department. It's remarkably effective at filtering out men who can't handle a woman with a good story. I still work at Phoenix General Hospital, but I've also started a side consulting business helping women navigate financial fraud in divorce proceedings. Turns out, there's a surprising demand for someone who's been through the entire process and can explain it without legal jargon. Beverly refers clients to me regularly, and I've discovered I have a talent for helping women find money their ex-husbands thought they'd hidden successfully. The jewelry sits in my jewelry box now where it belongs. I wear it regularly, not just for special occasions, but because these pieces have survived 4 generations of family drama, and they deserve to see the light of day. My great-grandmother's pearls have been to more grocery stores and coffee shops in the past 6 months than they had in the previous 3 years combined. Sometimes I wonder if Corbin genuinely thought he'd never get caught, or if he was just so deep in his fantasy that he stopped thinking about consequences. Either way, it's a reminder that the truth has a way of surfacing eventually, usually at the most inconvenient possible moment. The best part about this whole experience, I've learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. Getting my jewelry back was satisfying, but getting my life back was transformative. And if you're ever tempted to steal your wife's family heirlooms to impress your girlfriend, maybe consider therapy instead. It's cheaper than probation, and significantly less embarrassing than getting arrested at a birthday party. Trust me on this one.